Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of ARRI Asian Hour. My name is Michio Funayama from ARRI, and I will be moderating our session for today. We have quite a lot in store for you today, starting with our incredible guest speakers who will fill us in on how shooting techniques have evolved since the release of Trinity. They'll be sharing advice on how you can effortlessly achieve exceptional shot in any challenging situations with the world's first hybrid camera stabilizer. A quick reminder before we begin, everyone can start sending in your questions right now, and our guests will try to answer you throughout the episode. Make sure you click the question mark symbol at the bottom bar so you can access the chat box. All right, let's first meet the great mind behind Trinity and the whole ARRI camera stabilizer systems product manager, Curt Schaller. He's currently in ARRI office in Munich. He is here today to help us answer any questions you may have about Trinity and to also give you guys a few tech tips. Welcome to ARRI Asian Hour, Curt.
Hello, thank you. This is Munich. Thank you, Michi. Let me just make a little on-top introduction of our special guest tonight. And I want to start with Michi, because Michi and I know each other since a very, very long time. So please have a quick look at the first photo. I was like a very young Steadicam operator, and I was in New York showing the very, very first Artemis in 1999. And out of the blue, a Japanese lady showed up and taking a lot of pictures and had a strong interest in the Steadicam, of course, and in that vest I designed. And so we spent a lot of time there talking at the booth about Artemis. And about 4 weeks later, I was already in Tokyo presenting Artemis to Japanese operator. And one of the key moments in this part was the vest I designed, because the vest was for a bit more skinny and smaller operators like I am still today. And so Michi and I have a very, very long time relation from 1999 till today. And so she's a real expert when we're talking about Steadicam and all these devices. The other person I would like to point out a little bit tonight is Junior Lucano, who I met 1917 accidentally in Milano in Italy. We had a demonstration, and one of the photos you can see there's a white arrow showing a very quiet person, because he just been all the time in the background, very quiet, and let all the other operators doing their thing. And in the last second, he was in front of me. He said, "My name is Junior. I want to get this device, and I got a good idea what I want to do with this." And a bit later, I realized he moved to China. He did one of the first big movies there using Trinity in an absolutely amazing way. And he made himself a great career. He supported us since that day as an operator and a good friend in Beijing. And I'm very pleased that he's with us tonight. And another guy I would love to introduce is our good friend from the Philippines. I met, what was it, 2018-ish? And I was with him on his first shooting, and this was already a big take. It was a long one-taker. And so I think tonight we have the best people with us I can think of. So back to Michi.
Yeah, thank you, Curt. To our viewers, if any of you have a technical questions about the Trinity, leave them in a chat box, and Curt can answer you later during the panel discussion. For now, let's meet our next guest. Based in the Philippines, he started his career as an operator in 2013 with Steadicam, and became the first ever Trinity operator in Southeast Asia in 2016. He has shot projects ranging from film, commercials, and live events. His most recent work with the Trinity include Filipino films Maria, Isabel with the Feelings, The Girl in the Orange Dress, and many more. Cinematographers consider him as a go-to Trinity operator in his country. Let's welcome John Ross Mesa. Hello, and welcome to ARRI Asian Hour, Mesa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be part of this webinar, and I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi,
So
Mitch.
let me ask you some interview questions.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, you were actually the first Southeast Asian Trinity operator. How did it happen? What was your first project like?
Mhm. So yeah, basically when we started when I first encountered the Trinity, it was online. So I was the go-to guy. I mean, I've been doing some Steadicam works here in the Philippines for quite a while and quite a lot of films. So then the Trinity popped up. And then one of the suppliers here, the big ones, which is CMB Films by Jim Baltazar, has come to me and talked to me if I wanted or if I wanted to partake or do the Trinity for him. So we had this relationship. So he had me trained during this time. But the funny thing was when we were shooting the film called Goyo, Ang Batang General or the Young General, um, I had to train each time after I wrapped for shoot. I had to train for the Trinity because we were rushing to get a scene shot on the Trinity that the director and the DP was Pong Ignacio designed for that film. So yeah, we made it work, and
Wow.
the experience was incredible. It was a smooth one. At the beginning, I got like any normal feeling you would get unsure, uncertain. But as soon as I started wearing the rig, dancing with it, flying with it, it was like putting on your pants. It's
Wow.
yeah yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Thank
one of the latest projects you shot with a Trinity is a movie called Maria.
you.
What's
Right.
the story about?
Okay, so Maria is basically a film. Uh, she was. This is a film characterized by a female assassin, and she had this a peaceful life. She left the criminal world side, and then apparently she got spotted by her previous past, her dark past, and that's where everything changed from having a peaceful life and getting back to her, assassin life. And I think the
Oh,
Trinity for that, because this was an action-packed film, it played
yeah.
a very, very great role for us to be able
Mm.
to do certain coverages that we cannot do on a regular Steadicam. So
I
yeah,
see.
there you go.
Wow. So maybe Maria is in an action and stunt heavy film. So how did you capture those scenes with the Trinity? Is it more difficult to shoot action films compared to other genres?
Well, for me, all scenes are a challenge. It may be
Yeah.
an action or a dance
Mm,
or simply a simple walk and talk. It's always a challenge. But I think
mm,
the best part for this one was the DOP for Maria, who is Power in a very good friend of mine, and Pedring
mm,
Lopez, the director, had me briefed prior to the shoot. Everything was prepared. Everything was on point in terms of
mm.
timing, in terms of camera movements. As soon as I arrived on the set, we were talking and meeting how we can address and cover that many shots for that specific day. Because the first day of the film was actually already a Trinity heavy. It was to me it was really a wow moment because we started shooting at around 4 p.m. and then I took off the vest at around 4 a.m. So it was really a heavy, full run, action-packed film. Yeah, I lost a
Wow,
lot of
that's
weight
a
that
tough.
yeah.
Wow. And then also you also shot a commercial for Monday shipping, which was a one long take.
Mhm.
Can you walk us through how you capture with Trinity and then how the production choose to shoot with the Trinity?
Okay. So for this one, I was working with JP Gofis, our director, and Kerwin Go, who's a cinematographer. So I had the chance to work with Kerwin, the DOP, as my director prior. So he saw me operating the rig with the Trinity. And then from then, I think he was able to see the capacity or the potential of the rig at that time because it was very new when I got the chance to work with him for a different commercial prior to Mandawi. And then he immediately called me and talked about this one take intention of the story of the commercial. So it was changing. We were shooting from different rooms that was constantly changing, you know. So it was easier for me to control because the beauty about the Trinity is it helps operators like us to focus more on the framing, on the artistic side, rather than worrying too much about technical stuff. So to an operator like me who's very who likes to focus on framing, especially when the camera starts rolling, it's a big help because you don't need to worry much about the horizon this time, panning and tilting. All this stuff is easy. You're with the Trinity. Plus, you can do
Wow.
the low mode to high mode. You
Yeah.
can punch in right quickly. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that, Misa. That was really incredible, insightful. So Misa will have more project data tips can share with us in the later panel discussion. Thank you. So now that we have to move on to our next guest and a final guest speaker, who I think a lot of our viewers already know, so he doesn't really need an introduction, but I will do it anyway. He is one of the most notable Trinity operators currently based in China. He has an endless portfolio of Trinity projects, including recently released Chinese films Hidden Man, Lost in Russia, My People, My Homeland, and more, as well as commercials from big brands like Adidas, Sprite, KFC, and so on. More than an expert Trinity operator, he has also trained many new Trinity users in Asia and has led many ARRI master classes. Joining us from the ARRI China office is none other than Junior Lucano. Hi, Lucano. We're
Hi,
glad to have
Michi.
you
Hi,
with us
everyone.
today. Hi.
Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah, so let me ask you some questions. So, how's the
Yes.
production in China? Anyway, so we know you're already back on set and recently shot My People, My Homeland.
Yes. We already shot two films, actually, the one that you mentioned, and just 2 weeks ago, we finished a second film. So the production here in China is already going back to normal, step by step. There is always many precautions, like there is always checking, there is many tests, everybody wear masks. So it's not 100% back to normal like last year, but at least production start going with precaution and everything. So finally, everything start going normal with the work now.
Wow, I see. So you are probably one of the most well-known Trinity operators out there. How did you
Yeah,
train to
maybe.
become one of the best?
Well, I think I was lucky to be in the right time with the right people or the right place. I joined a big film, 2017, yeah, 2016, and I started as a Steadicam. And as Curt said before, when we met in Milan, the project of Trinity I was following. So when I moved to China, I talked with ARRI and I, I, I booked the Trinity. I want to be the first one, and because I have that film that it was coming, I talked with the DP to use the Trinity in that film. Unfortunately, the Trinity didn't arrive at the beginning of the film, arrived kind of by the middle. So I started the film as a Steadicam operator. And when the Trinity arrived, where we already were shooting, I talked with the DP. I was lucky that he's a very nice person. He understands the situation, and he gave me a couple of days to train, kind of like Misa. When you finish the shooting, you grab the Trinity and you train, because being the first one is cool, but the problem is that there is no one to ask how how to do the balance, how to operate. You just have to figure out everything by yourself. So during that film, it was, I have to use Trinity no matter what, and I have to learn it very quickly. And in those time of when I wasn't shooting, when there was crane shooting or something else, I take the Trinity and I start practice. And the director passed by, he looked at me, he saw what I was doing, and he said, okay, do that, next shot. And I was like,
just like that.
I'm not ready. Yeah, I'm not ready. But DP said, you cannot say no. So I just put it on and I start following the character. We did easy stuff first, you know, following back and forward, the up and down, and then just start running, start flying. That was one very challenging thing. Like even for me as the first time using the Trinity and start running with that, going do some crazy shots. I was surprised every time. I was like, whoa, it looks so cool. Like I'm able to do this because like Misa said, it opened you a new world. Like with aesthetic and you're so focused on the balance, so many technical things that sometimes you sacrifice a little bit the artistic way. You cannot get that close. You cannot do some kind of speed because you are afraid to lose the balance. And Trinity take away that worry. So you don't have to worry about that. You are more open to do something else, something more risky because you are secure that the framing is there, the stabilizer is there. So you can be more artistic and go to angles that you cannot do with the Steadicam. And the speed also, you can go fast, you can go slow, you can pan really quick and don't worry when you finish to lose the balance a little bit. So it was a nice master class for me, that film.
Wow. Wow, that's cool and tough. So you've
Yeah,
done,
I didn't have
yeah.
option. I have to
Yeah.
I have to become good at the first shot, at the first project. And that project, luckily in China, went very well. One of the main scenes that they put a trailer is one of the Trinity shots that I did. So after that, people get more interesting about the Trinity, how we did the shot. And from there, I start doing more films, more projects like that.
Wow. So you've done tons of project with Trinity now. So any more challenging or unexpected shot that you that Trinity were able to pull off?
Being the first one with the Trinity, every job is going to be always something challenged, and every job is going to be always new, because each director have different point of view. Each DP want always something new. So when they see the Trinity at the first time, normally what happened to me, even in commercial, they start using it as a Steadicam. But after couple of take, they understand what Trinity can do, what I can do with Trinity, and they start combining shots. Yeah. So what is supposed to be 2-3 shots, we do it in one shot, combine it. So that helps for advertisement to be more fast, to be more dynamic, and give more creativity to the directors also, to be able to find different angles, different way to tell the stories.
Wow, so thank you, Lucano, for sharing your work with us. I'm sure our audience learned a lot at this moment already. Now, let's bring back Curt and Misa to the live stream so we can have our panel discussion and answer your questions. Welcome back, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, sure.
Can I add something to Junior? Because I think Junior pointing out exactly what the Trinity is all about. And the reason I designed the Trinity is, on one hand, it helps you to overcome the limits of a regular Steadicam. And it's definitely opened up the possibilities. As Junior said, you could be way more brave and just try to get a complete new way of that shot you couldn't do with a regular Steadicam. And I think another interesting challenge for the directors is that they can use the Trinity for longer takes. And this is also kind of a little mindset up change the directors are going through in a moment, especially after they saw 1917, because 1917, I think, shows the highest level of making one shot and all the planning. And I have to say, since 1917, by side talking to a lot of operators, a lot of directors are contacting me and asking, how can I change my writing style to make a shot with a Trinity to look like something like 1917, or just make a good looking one taker. And I think this is a very nice development anyway, because even in the older days, shooting with Steadicam was a kind of tricky, because in the end, in the edit, that shot was cut in pieces and the entire Steadicam move was kind of vanished away. But now in the moment, I can see a clear change of the mind setting and the way they're preparing a shot like this and adding all these experienced operators. It will be better and better. Every shot you do with the Trinity, you will see it. It will open up a lot of new possibilities to tell a story and to make the storytelling definitely more colorful and more dynamic, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucano.
About just talking in 1917, as Curt mentioned, is open new world, but also I would like to mention the great operator from 1917, the Trinity Operator from that film, Charlie, who did an amazing job that I saw the backstage. I meet him. I mean, I wish I could do that film, but when I saw how challenge was some shots, the mode, everything, Charlie just did an amazing job. So I think it's always half-half, thanks to the technology and the job that Curt did with the Trinity, but also the operator, as Charlie, make this machine also do magic.
Yes. So again,
How about in Philippines, in Mesa, is Trinity a usual option for production, or is the demand for Trinity not that high?
Well, it's starting to pick up already. I mean, when we began, of course, a lot of VPs and directors were asking what can it do, you know? So immediately we were lucky enough, because again, we had CMB Films brought the technology here, and I was able to train with it. And after I shot the film Goyo again, it started picking up. You know, the demand right now it's not quite where we want it yet to be, but you know, it's getting there. Yeah.
Getting higher.
Yes.
Yeah. So Curt, we have many Ultimus operators from South and Northeast Asia who wants to be a Trinity operator. What's your advice to these Ultimus users who would want to upgrade to Trinity?
Well, the advice is very simple, because the Trinity beside me technically is 80% is a regular Artemis. So you just take the existing Artemis and you're just adding the Trinity head and some components at the bottom. But the base of the Trinity is a regular Artemis. So technically every Artemis which had been sold after 2007 is able to be upgraded to a Trinity. So there is technically there's no limits. Even if your Artemis is a little bit older already, there's no limits. So the only thing we would love to do, if possible, is to see first the Artemis, to see if we should do a little technical service and maybe upgrade some worn out parts. And then you're just adding the head, the battery hanger, the pendulum, the monitor, and here you go. And of course, you need a good training, because as the both Trinity operators are pointing out, in the moment you are on the set with a Trinity, the director will ask you to do a lot of crazy things. So for this moment, you should be prepared, you should have a good training to be ready for a creative director who's challenging you as much as he can.
Yeah, I see. So I think that is a part that all of our audience, especially the new and aspiring Trinity operators, wants to hear from you guys. And tips and advice you can give them when using a Trinity, like how long does it usually take you to set up and to balance Trinity? Are there any tricks you've learned throughout your Trinity operator journey that made doing this quicker? Yeah, I've got some same questions from the audience. So Curt, you have some more toys?
Well, I think everyone have a different experience how to set up a Steadicam in general, because number one is the setup of a Steadicam is always driven by the camera you are using. So technically, if you have a well set up camera, then the entire setup could be very, very fast. A big plus point setting up a Trinity compared to the regular Steadicam is that I can find the center of gravity of the camera while the camera is already in the Trinity. On a regular Steadicam, I have to take the camera off, I have to put it on a rod, I have to take a little piece of tape to mark the center of gravity roughly. Then I put back the camera on the Steadicam, and then I hope I got the center of gravity. With Trinity, I don't have this because I can do this measurement while the camera is already in the system, which speeds up everything a lot. My second advice is if you use this little plastic device here, this helps you to ensure that the top stage, which is at the bottom, is perfectly centered and that the batteries are perfectly centered. And from this point on, I can do it in 15 minutes.
15 minutes. How about you guys, Lucano,
if the camera's
Misa?
already done perfectly. The camera must be
15
set up
minutes,
before.
Curt.
15, that's the challenge.
Let's
boys.
ask
Go ahead.
to Lucano, maybe.
Okay, show me.
I'm not that good. 50 minutes is a little bit too much. I mean, once you give me the camera with everything, I'm very picky with the balance. For example, something that I put on my Trinity is this level. So I want to be sure that I have everything is in balance, everything is matched perfectly. Because when you do the trick up and down, there is some seconds that you don't touch the sled. You just let it go. So those seconds, if it's not well balanced, it will go a little bit to the right or to the left. So you have to make sure that everything is perfect in the middle, perfect neutral. So when you do the changing, those couple of seconds, 2 seconds, it will go straight as you want it. So because of that details, I take a little bit more time. Depends of what camera do I have. Like normally, a normal setup for TVC, between 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because I need to make sure, understand what the director or the DP wants. If I do a small rehearsal without camera to understand, okay, the actor is this high, or I have to go this low, so I can change the size of the sled a little bit more higher, so it could help me to do some tricks. If it's a normal shot, then I can keep it like this size, so I can go normal movement without problem. So between 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on the camera and movement I have to do.
So let's turn to Mesa.
To be fair, my 50 minutes is without a superposed and so. It's just a regular setup.
Of course.
Just to be sure, I'm
50
absolutely
minutes is too fast.
No, but I'm very.
You make us look bad.
Yeah, come on.
So Misa's turn.
I do this since so many years now.
No, I understand.
Tell me your trick.
Well, based on my experience, so what I do normally is I usually wait. I try to get in touch with the production as early as I can. So if I have time the day before, I would usually prepare the camera. What everything the lenses would want. I would assume everything, and I'd go to the house and check everything. And I'd probably try to meet Curt's 15 minutes if I can be able to pretty much gauge everything prior to that day, so that when I come on set, because I still have one more thing to worry about. It's basically like what Lucano said. It's talking to the directors, talking to the DPs, and this is the first time you encounter the environment, especially with the lights on. Everything is different. So I try to come if I have time, if I have the liberty of time, I would try to come in earlier. I mean, in terms of preparing myself and the camera, I would usually try to do a run prior to the day. So I'd go to the rental shop and check everything is there, so I can pretty much gauge where I would be putting the balance on. But just like Lucano, I'm also quite articulate on how I balance stuff, because once you get it there already, then you're up and running. Yes.
And what is the same 45 minutes I used in my old days for Steadicam? I was always minimum 30 to 60 minutes earlier on the set than everyone else. Because what I learned in my Steadicam times is sometimes you want to do 2 setups. You want to see what kind of a philosophy is maybe the better way for today's shooting. Because if you have a high dynamic shooting, your rig should be a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit more heavy, but it's more compact. If you have a walk and talk day, your rig may be lighter because you have to walk forever, but it's going to be a little bit longer because you would love to have more inertia to help you out. And then you're ending up always with this 45 minutes, which is, I would say, a very average setup time. Plus, there's one component, I think it's since 30 years the same issue. You think you are ready, and then suddenly someone shows up, especially from the sound department, said, oh, sorry, I forgot to put on the sound or whatever. And you say, come on, we talked about this 30 minutes ago. So there's always someone spoiling the setup in the end.
So it's a surprise,
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I started getting some questions from audience. So let me pick something about weather. So some people is asking you guys about a weather, like so in to Lucano, the audience had got a question for you. For the shoot, Los in Russia, were there any difficulty with Trinity in cold weather?
Oh.
Yeah.
it was a big challenge actually that film. I mean, every film, everybody have a challenge. That one, the weather was really a challenge because we were minus 24 in a ice lake, frozen lake. I have to do some 360 and follow the character. The Trinity was okay. I talked with Curt. I tried to protect a little bit these motors because I didn't know how it's gonna work because I have to go up and down all the time. But luckily for 4 months we were in Russia, there was no problem about it. So I was very happy. We just need to pack the battery very well because for the cold weather, the battery was dying very quickly. So we have to ask the DP understand because it was not only with Trinity, it was also with the other camera, camera A and camera B. So the battery was something that it was giving us a little bit problem to keep it warm, to keep shooting long takes. So other than that, I didn't have any problem at all. Only the cold weather because as you see, I'm not from the north, so cold weather is really painful for me. The other point that I want to talk about that film is that walking on the ice and walking on the forest with the snow is something that I never imagined to do it with a Steadicam and be so stable to do it. With Trinity, it just take away that worry. I mean, I was worried to fall, yes, but I have to do the job. I take my precautions. I was with a special boot and everything. But once I start walking and flying around, the image was so amazing. The director was happy, the DP was happy. I was frozen happy, but still happy about it. But it was a cool experience with Trinity, that project.
Okay, thank you. Curt.
I got a question for Lucano. Now, tell me, how long was the battery lifetime in average when it was so cold? What kind of batteries you used and how long they worked?
That's a
Roughly.
great question.
I don't know the brand because we were using rental house on St. Petersburg. You know, sometimes when I see already close to 13.20, I decide to change it.
Okay.
So half an hour, kind of. I think it's good timing.
That's not bad.
Yeah, because it's not always working. The film doesn't have too many long takes. I mean, the longest take I think I did in that film is a 360 that I put on Instagram. That's the longest one, because other ones is a little bit more. I mean, I did long takes, but then in the film, you know, they cut only the part they want. So the longest one I think is.
What was the low temperature, or the average low temperature you was working in Russia?
The highest one was minus 24. Then little by little with the time it was going down, but it was always minus 16, 19 because we were traveling. We were in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Baikal Lake. Yeah, we were in those 3 cities.
So how about you, Misa? Do you have any experience in a terrible weather or a terrible situation in a forest or in the snow, or do you have any?
Well, I had this experience with Goyo. We were on a rough terrain. So again, since I'm pretty much new to the rig, everything was a hit and miss for me. So, but luckily enough, the Trinity was able to handle the terrain because it was sometimes rainy, muddy, but the rig gets it done.
Good, great. Yeah, Lucano, please.
Yeah, I have a question for Curt because Misa just pointed about the rain. I
Yeah.
just finished two
Yes,
films
please.
under the rain, really heavy rain, fake rain, and real rain. And I create my own kind of camouflage to protect the camera. And it
Thank
was
you for
tough.
bringing this up, my friend.
Yeah, Kurt, there is any updates about rain cover for Trinity?
Rain cover.
No, of course, let's start from the bottom. We know we have the rain cover for the button. That's already there.
Yes.
We learned in the past that we have to protect the monitor, especially the little
Yes.
transvideo. They have these little SD cards slit at the side. You have
And the
to
joystick.
cover this. The joystick should help if you put a little like a cellophane plastic around this. The motors of the Trinity in itself, they are waterproof. Even if the water goes inside a motor, nothing happens because everything inside is sealed. So the only thing which is absolutely key on Trinity is you have to wrap the base plate of the Trinity itself, especially because there's the silver little bottoms at the back. These knobs are not waterproof. So here you should use some cellophane to cover this up. Wrapping the entire camera and the ring is very, very tricky because whatever you put around, you're limiting the rotation, which will be always very, very, very tricky because as more we wrap it and as more we put a rain cover around, as less it can move. And this is exactly the kind of let me call this a dilemma, because if you want to have full motion, you have to reduce protection. If you want to have full protection, you're limiting the motion. So my advice is, if possible, have someone with a big Indian umbrella or a Chinese one and help you a little bit out and protect you if possible, because again, it is a kind of a dilemma. Whatever you do, it's good from one side, but you're limiting the other expectation. So my advice still is gaffer tape and cellophane foil.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask you
Misa,
about
I tried to ask about the rain cover.
Yeah.
rain cover.
I guess we did. I'm happy with the umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah, because now, gentlemen, let's be very clear. The issue is every camera is changing the length of the design. So we would have unnecessary lot of rubber in the end. And so, and then suddenly you can't reach the motors anymore. It stays tricky. Absolutely. Right. But again, this was, even with the old camera was an issue because in the old days, we just put a huge rain cover over it, easy. But then the wind moved under the rain cover and then the entire Steadicam did funny things. Right. So the question is, and I remember this very well, we had to reduce shots because the wind was playing around with my Steadicam like with a ball and I couldn't control it anymore because of the two big rain covers. So even in my old days, I just took cellophane and wrapped the camera.
Yep.
Because the wind couldn't play anymore with a cellophane. It is still, it's old school, but it's still kind of okay-ish.
Yes, the job's done, yeah?
So let me ask some questions to you guys from the audience. So how long will it take the setup and balancing with a mini LF? Is anybody
I think we already discussed that. Yeah, the answer will be the same.
So the
answer will be the same.
Between 50 minutes when I do it, or 45 minutes if you're on a real set.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I would say, let's be friendly, 32 minutes as an average.
Okay, so
just to make that sure, it doesn't matter if it's a mini or another camera in this design or an Alexa with a prime lens. Well. The procedure is always the same because an experienced Steadicam operator, a Trinity operator, follows a very clear procedure to make the balance as perfect as possible in as shortest time as possible, because as faster he can balance, as more time he have to speak to the director, to speak to the actors to get a feeling for what is the shot about, because that's the key. He have to get the shot as perfect as possible. That means he should be able to do a precise balance in a short time, to have more time for the other part of the jobs.
Well, yeah. So maybe can you share your experience, the heaviest camera and lenses for the Trinity? How
Lucano,
heavy was it? This is a
DLF
question from
shooting.
the audience.
Lucano, that's yours. I say Thailand.
I have a lot of. I was the first one with we shoot the demo reel of the first Alexa LF, which is the big model, not the mini, and that was really tricky because it was a secret project that they called me, and when I found out that big camera, that was the heaviest one. The lucky one, it was with a Signature Prime, which is very light, but the camera, it was really heavy with that. I put the SXT also with Master Primes. Mini, just the last week, Mini with the Macro 65 from Cook. They challenged me. I mean, there is always going to be, I think I put all the heavy cameras so far that we can put on the Trinity.
Yeah. So speaking of Lucano's experiences, one thing we've noticed is you always shoot with your segway. Does riding a segway while shooting make things easier?
Well, the way I arrived to the segway is the same way I arrived to Trinity, which means that as a Steadicam operator, I was looking for do something new, give something new to options to the DP, to the director. And that's how I arrived to change from Steadicam to Trinity. Once I started doing Trinity, I keep wanting to do something more. And sometimes you want to do this pushing very fast or do some long tracks. Trinity compared with the Steadicam is a little bit more heavy, which require more strong. So the timing of your body, it will be a little bit more or less compared with the Steadicam, depends on your body. Maybe Misa can do more because he have more physical body than me. But so I try to find some solution, and by looking on internet, by looking on Instagram, I've been looking how people were using different tools like roller skating and everything. So one day I decided to try the segway, and in a film, in the first film, actually, I saw the DP using it, and after that
you
film,
said the roller skating.
I saw no the segway because in a studio when you work in a studio the distance are very long, so people start buying the segway to transport to one studio to another one, and I found really cool to do that. So I buy my own segway, then I start playing around, and then I decide to jump with the Trinity. But before that, I really train myself, because if I fall with the Trinity on me on the segway, it's going to be really painful. So I talked with one of the stunt guys, like how I can lose the fear. And one of he told me is that I should learn how to fall. So that's one of my advice. You know, one, be careful. Two, if you really want to do it, train as much as you can with the segway, play around, and fall. You have to fall without equipment, just with yourself. Try to learn, lose that fear about falling from the segway. Yeah. And also you understand how your legs work, if the speed is too fast and everything. So you understand many things by making mistakes. Wow. And after that, I just decided to try it. And now it's one of my tools. Exactly for Adidas was one of my big advertisements that I use the segway, because we have to follow the runners, and they have to be in a very small areas that we couldn't put a small car to follow it. So I thought with the DP, I said I can do it with the segway. And after that, the next 2 days of shooting of the advertisement of Adidas, it was all segway and Trinity. And now it's part of my package when we have to do some crazy movement. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's not something safe that I say everybody should do it, but because I want to do something new, I just keep looking for options to give, to create, to challenge myself. So right now it's segway. I don't know, maybe next month what I'm gonna bring on the video, on the options for my package.
Yeah.
So another question is, how many hours per day should I practice? So maybe he's a new operator, I think. So if you have some advice for him?
Well, I guess sorry, can I take this?
Yeah, Misa, please.
Yeah. For this one, again, I mean, I'm sure Lucano and I mean, everybody would agree who has experience with the Trinity. It takes a lot of time, to get yourself familiarized, even with the conventional Steadicam and whatnot. But in terms with the Trinity, I mean, it's with a simple booming down and up, practicing yourself with the joystick. It takes time. So I found myself doing one day. I just went to the shop and practice, just tilting the joystick, just getting myself familiarized with how it works. So this stuff added up with how you operate, coming from transitioning as a Steadicam operator to a Trinity operator. Well, I guess we can tackle this as well, no? Our transition from being a Steadicam operator going to the Trinity operator, it was again, I guess it was easier for us to migrate because we technically have the same blueprint. The arm, the sled, and the vest. Your body is familiar to the weight, but in terms of practicing, as long as you have time, my friend, just keep practicing.
Wow. So, Curt, please.
Yeah, but again, to make that clear, before you start with a Trinity, you have to have a minimum a year regular Steadicam experience, minimum, because first of all, through the Steadicam, you can train the muscles at the back. Now, regular Steadicam work is, the movement is a bit that you're pulling the Steadicam towards the body. But when you're changing to Trinity, you have to learn that you're pushing the rig away from the body. That means you need extra muscles at the back to be able to make that kind of a movement without falling to the forward. Anyway, because of course the Philippine guy here, he got muscles like nuts, which I don't have. So again,
muscle in the ears.
Yeah. So my muscle is my brain, honestly. So, but again, to be very sure, before you go into deep Trinity operating, go ahead and do the regular classic Steadicam training, which is key, and build up your back so you have enough muscles to go then the next level to adding even more muscles to your back. And by side of muscles, it's not just the amount of muscles you have, it's also the way that you can move like a cat. It's this, to be smooth, this is all about, because the Trinity looks even better when the operator can walk like a cat or like Tai Chi. So you should look into these things also, Tai Chi, yoga, whatever makes you smoother and more controlled, because that's what I try to do, because I don't have any muscles. So what I try to do is just synchronize these little muscles into one big movement. And because, I'm wearing every day a vest, so I'm always in training still, in a way. So find a good teacher. That's the key. Find a good teacher.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucano, please.
I just want to point that even if you are new, for example, with the pandemic, I was stopped working for almost 4 months, a little bit more. And even if I did Trinity for 3 years, and after the pandemic, being at home or try to do exercise, when you come back on set, it's totally different. Like I feel the pain like the first day I put the Trinity on it. So it's a keep training. I think even after you have it, you have to take care of your body. So as every sport, the more you train, the more you are familiar with the equipment, with your body, it's gonna be better for you.
Yeah. So during your shooting, how many assistant cameramen or assistant you've had usually?
I trust with one guy. His name is Mike Kulam. So he usually, we have this good communication already in terms terms of how to operate, how I move. So he knows how I move, so he can get me out of trouble very easily.
Mm.
How about you,
I see.
Lucano? That's one
Yeah,
thing.
how about you, Lucano?
Do you usually have your own assistant, or how does it go with you guys?
It's really tricky in China because for films, I have my team. I have a really good focus puller and become my friend, Jiang Jinbing, who is a Chinese guy. And the funny story with this person, my assistant, is that he doesn't speak English. I don't speak Chinese. But we have this communication that I just look at him and just talk with the hands so he understands the movement that I have to do, and he's amazing. Like I find on him a really good partnership as a friend, as working together. He's a focus puller, but he learned how to balance the Trinity. He used to be an operator, and he also be an assistant for Steadicam operators. So he knows how to balance the Steadicam also. That's how it becomes more easy to him to balance the Trinity. And that is a main key for me when I do films, because in the time I'm working with the director, with the DP, he's taking care of the balance on the Trinity on the films. That's a big plus for me. So after I finish with the DP, he asked me, "Are you ready?" I just look at him and he said yes, and I just go. So it saved me a lot of time, and I trust him fully to that. For advertisement, because he lives far away from the city, in another city, and he has a family, normally I go with the assistant that the DP has. And then I take care of myself. I just ask one assistant to take care of me, depending on the situation or the movement, but balance and everything I do by my own.
I see. So, like, any more advice for new operators in Asia, in the whole world? In any advice from Curt?
Well, what we did because of Corona, of course, we even changed the way we do workshops. So what we prepared is videos. So the idea is that, first of all, you're contacting the ARRI Academy. So you will be able to watch the videos. And after this, we will arrange what we call a one-on-one or a group meeting through social media or what we do in a moment. But the idea is, after you saw the videos, we can arrange that you got access to the hardware. So you got the hardware in your home or in your studio, and you're going to have me or Lucano or someone else ready for you. So what we do is I do it, the way I do it in Europe is that we're going to have 2 sessions in a week. So you have an entire week with the hardware. You have enough time to do your own experience, to get your questions together. And then we do another meeting like on a Thursday, and we just go through all your questions. And I think this is a good way for you, because in the end you have the rig 4 days and you can play with it. And 2 days, after 4 days, you could have me online with you. So that's the way we do it in Europe. And I'm pretty sure we can do exactly the same for Asia with that great operators we have with us this afternoon. The videos are available, so this is easy to access. So we're ready to go. And of course, we hope that soon we can do something live in real, because of course, even for me as a teacher, it's always better to feel you, to see the way you're walking. But I think in the moment this is okay. It's okay the way we try to do it.
So you guys got a ARRI Academy in Munich?
Yeah.
Well, how was it? Maybe audience want to hear some about training.
How was it in the past?
Yeah, how was it in the past?
Easier. Yeah, but technically the old way before Corona, what we did is a workshop was not more than 5 people. Because I prefer to have a small group of operators. It gives me more time to have more time for the individual. It also gives the group more time to work together and to design shots and to do really kind of what we like to do, a masterclass. The workshops are like 4 days. But again, this is not possible right away in the moment. It may be possible in next year or maybe in 2 years. So that's the reason then we said, okay, we do a one-on-one through devices like we do in the moment. And honestly, this also works very, very well because, again, it's only me and the operator got all the equipment at home. It is kind of perfect, I would say.
Yeah, I've got so many questions about balancing from audience. So let me ask you one more time the quick point from you guys to the audience about a balancing point.
But the entire idea in the Trinity balance is a very, very simple one. In the end, we want that the camera can go from high to low in one movement. That means whatever we do, the way we prepare the camera have to be perfectly in symmetry. So everything should be side by side, the same weight, or everything should be close to the center of gravity. So the camera should be as compact as possible and as balanced as possible by purpose. And we do exactly the same on the Trinity. Whatever we put at the bottom where the batteries are, we try to get the batteries perfectly in the center line. The batteries have the same size, and everything is also moved before we start even balancing. We move everything to the center. So that means that the top stage is, we take this device, we put it to the top stage, we turn the top stage, and this is perfectly into the center. We move.
So what is the name of that part, Curt? What is the name of that
little, I just call it the Trinity tool. This is a 3D printed piece of plastic. You find that 3D file on the web page. You can print this yourself. So if you lose it, don't worry. Just make another one. You can download the file. Yeah.
Yeah,
the file
wonderful idea. Yeah. People lost, many tools.
And this is exactly the idea of a Trinity, because in the moment, everything is already lined up in the center of the post. The Trinity will do exactly what you're asking for. It will go down straight by itself, because that's what Junior mentioned before. When you do the coasting from high to low mode, you have to take off your hand, and the rig will travel perfectly on its own. And you have to do nothing. It will go straight down. That's the idea. But again, for this, you have to take your time to prepare the camera in a good way and to get the Trinity in perfect symmetry. But by the way, perfect symmetry is also the golden rule to get a good Steadicam setup, because only perfect symmetry brings you to what we're looking for. And this is called dynamic balance.
Dynamic balance.
That's the key thing. If you do a Steadicam setting or a Trinity setup, the operator have to have a perfect so-called dynamic balance. And that means I can run down the street like nuts, and I can make a 180-degree whip pan, and the picture is rock steady. And if my hardware is balanced that way, I will have the shot I'm looking for. Because there's another thing about a Trinity and Steadicam operating is, you as an operator try not to do too many rehearsals. You try not to do too many shots, because you get tired and the actor gets tired. So the main goal when you do a balance is to save later time and energy. Because what I learned in my Steadicam experience is the first cut is the deepest. That means if your first take makes everyone happy, you will not make any better take, because everything is fresh, crisp, full of dynamic, full of real motion. So take your time to make your balance right. And again, the balancing of Trinity is not too complicated at all in the end. If you understand, and you see this also in the workshop, technically it's 10 steps. And if you follow these 10 steps very precisely, deal done.
Okay, thank you very much. So any comments from Lacano or Misa to the audience?
I think I explained very well. So.
Yeah, we need another couple hours for talking more and more. But yeah, that's all the time we have for our Asian hour this time. So thank you, Curt, Misa, and Lucano for joining us today and
thank you.
Sharing your Trinity expertise. And Mesa and Lacano, we can't wait to see more of your Trinity projects soon. A chat box so you can check it out. So that's all, folks. See you in the next ARRI Asian Hour.